meme space, it has all these stories where people 100x or reach financial freedom with one click, right? Just keep on clicking.
Have you guys ever had any like run-ins with the Cabals?
Do I believe there are Cabals out there? Yeah, definitely. Every time they see the price go up, they're not selling. And who's the one selling? It's these farmers.
Well, dude, low-key, you know what that kind of reminds me of is like the Trump meme coin. You're getting rubbed.
This is the first meme that came out of our platform. This is backed by our platform. We say we go hard on memes. How is it gonna run?
What are kind of some tips you would give to retail users about like avoiding rug?
I think
Today's podcast is brought to you by Ether.fi Cash, your gateway to spending your crypto. Cash is a truly crypto-native credit card. Spend with a crypto-integrated credit card and stablecoin account, all with crypto, all hassle-free. Earn 3% cash back with perks, event tickets, and additional rewards for every purchase on your Ether.fi Cash credit card. Start earning now at Ether.fi/refer/Jack, link in the description.
Well, we're here with David, chief intern of all of the interns at Ourbit. So super stoked to talk about him. They've got an interesting exchange product that we'll get into a little bit. But yeah, who are you? What do you do?
Yeah, so I'm David, chief intern at Ourbit. So, try to do everything meme related and, help out wherever I can with the exchange.
Excellent. Well, the first question I want to ask is kind of a fun one. What are your top 5 favorite memes?
Top 5 favorite memes. Farcoin, definitely.
Fartcoin, legendary.
Fartcoin, just heard about it this morning, but dude, it's definitely goated. Of course, bitch, that's kind of our platform memes.
Right. Gotta shout it out.
It probably should be the first one, but hey. And then some of the other ones, I know Gork right now, it's pretty hot. It just came out. And then, every time during a fucking conference, there's always going to be a runner. And then I was just out there kind of having fun drinking. So, of course, I missed it.
Well, dude, so the problem with Dubai, I've noticed, is like the trenches are hot. Do you know what time the trenches are hottest?
I think, I usually know kind of like the U.S. time. It's like kind of middays and the evening time.
Exactly, bro. The evening, like 4 p.m. to like 10 p.m. US is like the hottest. Is like the Memecoin trenches hours.
Right.
Everyone gets home from work. They're gonna like do some DJing, right? But 4 to 10 p.m. in Dubai is like 12 a.m. or something. So it's impossible to trench hard in Dubai.
Right, exactly. And then especially, out here at conferences, it's like you can't just be like, hey, I'm talking to people, meeting up with friends, and all of a sudden it's like, hold up, let me...
Bro, I've been checking the chart during the podcast, like right here.
True. I think the last one, there's definitely a lot. Ticker Bitcoin.
Ticker Bitcoin. Bitcoin. Shout out to the Bitcoin crew. We got the Ourbit Sproto.
Yeah,
we just published the Bitcoin podcast. That was a fun podcast. Yeah, so it's funny. Like honestly, well, I got meme for not liking meme coins previously, and then I kind of got into meme coins, and it's just like you got to play the metas, right? And honestly, meme coins are kind of fun. Like there's some funny meme coins. And
it is.
I've gotten more into it.
Yeah, I think it's like with the attention economy, right? It's people try to. I think if you're thinking too rationally, like try to associate a value with the actual, memes, it can be hard for someone to kind of comprehend.
Right.
But if you think about it, is that I think emotional value is very much a value in it itself, and especially kind of as with like a younger demographic, like with more people kind of paying, like being more on social media, being exposed to all these kind of contents.
Right. The
is
Zoomers.
that there's very much a way to put like a monetary value onto these kind of projects. So I think a lot of people think it's scam, but what I think is just like a different way of, how kind of people can put an actual value onto these contents.
Right. Plus, like the idea of like memetics and putting value on memes, that's been around for a while, right?
Right.
And Doge is like one of the earliest meme coins. Like it's kind of. Plus, like even Bitcoin, right? Like memetic value has been talked about in crypto, and it's kind of this fundamental part of crypto. Morad, who we had on the podcast too, talks about like VC coins as memes. Like it's all a meme essentially.
Right.
So I think it's complex, but there's validity to like memetics and there's value to memetics as well. But talk to me about the origin of Ourbit. Like
Yeah, so Ourbit, it was originally kind of founded by a lot of the kind of like the industry OGs, like previous CX founders, like previous kind of people who's been in the exchange game for quite some time. And then I think to a certain degree, kind of they got tired of, hey, VC coins, and then it's kind of like feeling like we really want to build an exchange for the people, like a lot of these veterans, like a lot of these founders, they're like degens themselves, and they're just looking out there and see that, hey, actually, there's not like a platform for people to, bid memes, and for the platforms to really have a distinctive character that's kind of aligning with the culture.
Right.
So that's kind of how they were just like, hey, if no one else is doing this, like we should be doing something about it. So that's kind of how the original team came about.
Right.
And then that's how you see, if you were to check out our Twitter, like we have a very strong character. And then we wanted to, I think we've been doing, memes like since pretty much the very early days. Like that's the inception of the concept. And then as we kept on going, we see the kind of like the meme super cycle going on. And then we just, decided to double down on this.
Right. Well, I mean, there are kind of some platforms, maybe like Moonshot, which kind of might kind of be characterized as like centralized exchanges that are catering towards memes. But you guys are really kind of like the centralized exchange with the OG meme kind of product offerings. Like what is? Tell us about your Memecoin product and like how people interact with it.
Yeah. So I mean, are you talking about kind of Bitch or just talking about how like
just the exchange in general?
The exchange. Yeah, so the exchange in general, I think, with a lot of kind of DEXs that are out there, I mean, DEX are great, but sometimes, security features, it lacks some security features. So, people can, every now and then, get scammed pretty easily. So we felt like, hey, there's, we kind of want like to build an exchange or to build a product that has the security of centralized exchange, but also at the same time has like a DEX-like experience where people can just ape and where people can feel, ape while feeling safe about their about their coins.
Right.
So that's kind of where the initial vision is. And then as we kept on building this product, and then as we kept on seeing the rise of, all the DEXs, right? So that's also, aside from the centralized exchange piece, we also had a DEX piece that recently came out. So we're just like, hey, we just want to offer that kind of one-stop shop where people can trade on both our DEX and then also trade on our centralized exchange portion as well.
Right.
And then also, for projects is that nowadays, there's a lot of projects out there, and then we want to see kind of be as supportive as possible. So kind of as a lot of the projects, they won't necessarily be able to get on the sex portion right away. Like there's kind of like an incubation phase. There's kind of a phase where they're building up the volume, building up the communities. So that's kind of where we also see that the DEX piece comes into play. So this way we can help them kind of just get on the DEX portion and then get on the sex portion. So along the way we'll provide support, and then we want to see more meme projects become successful.
But to be clear, like the DEX, if I have like, $1,000 in USDT or whatever on Ourbit, the DEX is immediately accessible to me, just kind of like, clicking from one tab to another, right?
Right. It's essentially like a switch. You switch to the DEX portion. I do think there's two separate wallets. So, I mean, it's one account, but you need to move the funds from the SEX portion to the DEX portion.
But it's not like it's not like using Base versus using Coinbase. It's like a very kind of integrated experience.
Yeah. It is an integrated experience.
Right. Cool. And then talk to me, like, you guys are the first ones to list memes all the time. I know, whether it's OG memes or like, recently like Gork or whatever today that came out literally today. I know it's already on your platform. Talk to me about like listings and is that complex to do? How are you guys able to list so quickly when other platforms can't?
Yeah. So I think, definitely like shout out to our research team. We have a go-to research team. So these people kind of, again, just essentially everyone from our team, like we're all DJs, like we're all, winning, losing on these meme coins. So we're constantly kind of seeing what's out there on the market. And then, so we're constantly tracking what's hot, what's new, what's hot, what's the next narrative that we can bet on. But also at the same time, because of the fact that we have a very robust research team, they were able to kind of quickly vet these projects. They're constantly, I don't think they sleep, but they're constantly kind of doing some back-end research on these projects, making sure that, hey, whatever hot project that's out there, they're not rugs. Because there are some signs that you can spot. So once we identify those, we try to move quick. And then ultimately is that because we want to get these meme projects onto our platforms early, so that when our user sees that, essentially giving them alpha, right? So they can get in early as well on our platform and then kind of ride that wave.
Well, I think that's been kind of one detractor of centralized exchanges in this cycle is like, basically in the trenches you have like a daily runner, right? And a lot the speed, the velocity of which these projects kind of explode and then go back to zero is so quick that like you need to get in early, like within a couple of days of the coin's launch to kind of capture that upside. And then there's a lot of upside to capture. And if Coinbase is going to list like dog with hat in September, after it's gone to 4 billion and back to 100 million or something, then like there's not as much upside to be captured there. Like you need to have an agile team that's willing to like embrace quick listings, right? And it takes like knowledge, and it does take like a little bit of a risk as well,
right? Definitely, I think the meme kind of project space, like the meme coin space itself, is very risky, right? And then exactly like you said, kind of like teams need to move very quickly, like capture what's hot, and then just kind of a little bit less on the process end, a little bit more on, hey, let's capture the momentum side of things. And then of course, there are exchanges out there that's, hey, kind of require a little bit more, and then they want to see how the projects performs over time. But with the memes, it's sometimes, of course, there are good runners that can last for like weeks and months. But unfortunately, kind of right now, with the state of the trenches right now, it's like a lot of the coins, their life cycles are kind of short. So we kind of want to, so this is the part where exchanges really needs to adapt, and then just to capture the momentum, and then you try to bring back as much value to the users.
Right, and to be fair, I think it's why a lot of like decentralized exchange infrastructure has done well recently, is because it's like that's where the memes originate. They originate on chain, they come on chain, and they're immediately available on chain. So they have a massive, anyone willing to use and onboard to decentralized infrastructure, Pump.fun, Jupiter, whatever, Ourbits decentralized product. There's an advantage to using that, and it's.
Yeah, I think that's why kind of DEX is so hot, right? Because essentially you were able to, we constantly see these stories where people getting at 50K and then they ran to like 100 mil or like 200 mil. I mean, nowadays you see a little bit less, but nowadays still like getting in from like 50K, right it up to a couple mil or something. That's the thing. Definitely, I mean, that's the part that I think a lot of the central exchanges lacks, just because of the fact that it's not launched from decentralized exchange, and the exchange needs to react. So that's also part that, because we have a DEX arm. So yeah, I mean, it's not launched on our DEX, right? But there's a much higher chance that you will be able to capitalize on these kind of earlier stages because our DEX is constantly monitoring what's hot, and then we will be kind of supporting those pairs on our DEX. So there's a chance for kind of our users to hop on very early as well.
Right. Plus, it's kind of hybridized, where it makes the workflow of getting funds into a meme coin from a centralized venue or from like from onboarding funds way quicker.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can everything under one account. So you're not. I think with so many trading bots, so many wallets, right? Like sometimes I'd be pulling up GMGN, sometimes I'd be pulling up like Phantom, like and then also there's like Axiom, I think. That's the newest trading bot, right? So there's definitely a lot of wallets to keep track of. I mean, I know some people prefer that, and I again, no shades on them. They're a great product. And then for us, it's just kind of want to make sure we kind of want to just kind of ease up, like make the user experience a little bit more friendlier to just have everything here, within one app.
Right.
So,
yeah, that's a good point. Like, you guys are a research venue. You're competing with like GMGN. You guys are a DEX product. You're competing with Jupiter and BullX and Photon. You guys are a centralized exchange product. You're competing with Coinbase and Bybit and Binance. Like, how do you view yourselves internally? How do you manage like being competitive on all these angles?
Yeah, I think at the core is that we're a newer exchange. We kind of want to, and then our goal to begin with is to create that kind of wealth effect, generational wealth effect for our users.
Right.
And then that's kind of how we build our brand. That's how we kind of build that strong base so that we can grow, so that we can compete with the T1 exchanges. And then on the DEX side, we can compete with some of the best trading bots, right? Ultimately is that with kind of like a user first mindset, and then kind of getting feedback from our users and getting feedback also from just all the projects that we list, like monitoring their performance, and then constantly just do that rapid kind of user feedback cycles and these sessions to see, okay, so these are some of the things that we should be building. These are some of the projects that we should list. Is, again, like we first came out with a centralized product, and then as we see that, hey, the DEX part is getting more prominent, and then our users want to get in on these projects earlier, but also at the same time they want to trade on our platform. So that's how the DEX kind of that idea came about. Like I think probably like 4 or 5 months ago, and then we started building on that. Mm-hmm. So ultimately is having users' best interests at heart, and then just keep on building what's needed by them.
Right. So you guys were kind of early to the Memecoin narrative and like the Memecoin Supercycle. Mm-hmm. I know like right now it's May 1st. We're in Dubai talking 2049. So like people are hesitant about the memes still and maybe thinking that kind of the era has ended. You guys have obviously like doubled, tripled down on memes. Mm-hmm. Do you think the Memecoin Supercycle is over? Is it perpetual? Like, where do you stand on that?
Yeah, I think memes will always exist, mm-hmm. because it's a great way to kind of capitalize on all these contents that's always going around. Sometimes I kind of, I would say that, hey, the fastest way for me to get the news is through monitoring what's out there.
Honestly, like, I'm not kidding. I found out about Donald Trump's assassination attempt on DEX screener.
Right, and then with Pope's passing, rest in peace. Like that's kind of how I found out. Like before everything.
What's the contract address, bro?
I don't think there were any runners. It would be kind of rude to have, nice. That's something that I sort of don't vibe with. But it's just kind of insane that where you can just create all these meme coins, like all these meme projects based on social events, current events, right? So just with that, I think the meme coins will always exist. And then in terms of kind of where we are when it comes to meme supercycle, I think it has a lot to do with the kind of like the macro economies. Right. And then some people say kind of like the crypto space, like especially Bitcoin, is kind of contingent on the U.S. economy, like U.S. stock market, right? So I do think the cycle is definitely not over. I think there's ultimately it's like we're gonna need to see kind of rates drop from the States. We're gonna see some QEs coming in, and then I think that's gonna be like a new wave. Like right now, I do think with Gork, right? This is already like the beginning of I think the better phase, like the revival of the trenches. Like you see runners going to 50 mil in a day, so that's already a good sign. But I think I would definitely, in order for the trench to be fully back, like there's probably more liquidity that's needed. There's probably a little bit more appetite from big money to bet on these more risky assets.
Right. Well, yeah, we just saw like a Gork went to $50 million, and I remember there used to be like $50 million runners every single day.
Right.
Like fall 2024 was every single day.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting that I think basically I kind of agree with you, and it's like the meme coin trenches will always be there. It's just like on what kind of magnitude are they operating? At least with this like day-to-day stuff where it's like, is it going to be a $1 million runner, a $10 million runner, a $100 million runner? That's kind of like a function of the like macro situation.
Yeah, I think a lot of people kind of, from what I'm hearing, you know, some people kind of compare like meme coins to the NFTs, and then how kind of the rise and fall of the NFTs. They're just like, hey, you know, this is the Memecoin Supercycle, but meme coins it's gonna be old news. And then to me, I think there's like a couple of differences, like when it comes to, I think NFTs are a little bit less liquid compared to meme coins, right? Because meme coins essentially, it's much more liquid, and then thus it would just, you know, you can always kind of buy, sell.
Right.
Like you don't. I mean, the demand, I think it's just a little bit different compared to the NFTs.
100%. Plus the NFT meta was different. It was more community based, and it was like the whitelist grinding, the Discord stuff. It was like a completely different narrative. I don't see them as like necessarily overlapping. There's some similarities, but I think they're like kind of broadly different. I will say, I think there's like, when we talk about meme coins, I think there's actually like multiple categories. You have like the OG pure memes, right? Which is like Bitcoin, you know, Harry Potter, Obama, Sonic, 10 Inu. I think that's right. Like Mog. What are some other ones here? Like some of the early pump fun coins, Mitchie, stuff like that. Those are like the memes. Then you have like the fair launch coins, which is like pump fun stuff. And to be fair, not all the fair launch coins. Some of those are like legit projects, right? It's like a legit AI project, service, launchpad, or you know, we saw like a lending platform come off of Pump.fun recently. So then you have that, and you have like the news meme coins, which is like the Pope or whatever, or like what's another reason? The election, Donald Trump stuff.
Yeah, like the Elon related concepts.
Exactly. Yeah, like whatever kid Elon had that day. So it's kind of like these are all labeled under meme coins, but they're kind of different and distinct phenomena.
Right.
And like Bitcoin, you know, has been around for like almost, I think, 3 years now.
Yeah, it's definitely quite some time.
And so
Still going.
And then like other countries or other memes, we have like the Daily Runner. So those are kind of like more the news memes. So it's definitely a kind of varied landscape, and these things evolve in interesting ways. I think it's kind of crazy, like the Morad meme coin. I don't know how closely you paid attention to Morad, but like,
I mean, I hold a lot of his coins.
Yeah. Because like his thesis actually hasn't played out in the exact way that he has said, right? Like some of his coins have underperformed if you are trying to look at like the Daily Runner narrative, the Daily Runner meta, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think he focuses a lot on, you know, really trying to pick out those hardcore communities, right?
Right, like the long-term meme, like the slow cooks.
Right. He's looking at it from a very long-term vision. I think mostly because, you know, he thinks the kind of like the meme super cycle, or it's always going to be meme super cycle, right? Like there's always attention economy, there's always emotional value, and then essentially the more hardcore the community members are, like the more kind of the emotional value, it doesn't just add up, it kind of compounds, right? It compounds exponentially. So that's definitely something that I think also, you know, XPX is another great example of a hardcore community. It's just I think for him, he's doubled down on the community side, on the longevity of these projects, and then the price action itself is ultimately going to be a reflection of how strong the community is. And then it's kind of like, you know, how the U.S. economy doesn't necessarily equals to the U.S. stock market,
right?
But he's saying, you know, hey, there might be a delay, but the price will always kind of follow up. So I mean, definitely, you know, that's I think for me is a lot of respect for you know what he's doing, seeing his portfolio just going up and down like crazy, and then he's still holding it, and I'm just like, wow.
Yeah, I talked to the Bitcoin team about this, or Ticker Bitcoin team about this, and they're like, I kind of agree with, or I don't know if I agree with Morad 100%, but like Morad is 100% about what he's about. Like I don't think he's kind of scamming or grifting.
Right.
Personally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, like, have you guys kind of tried to onboard those specific meme communities in any ways to Ourbit, and like how do you interact with those communities?
Yeah. So we work with I think Ticker Bitcoin, SPX 6900, Retardio. These are some of the kind of like the projects that we got in touch with very early, right? So of course you see kind of like the merch with the Ticker Bitcoin. We did events with Retardio. We are very close to the XPX 6900 community as well.
Cool.
So definitely we try to kind of, and then we held a lot of AMAs, like joint AMAs with these projects, kind of just shooting the shit, over space, and then just kind of like going to their events offline, like inviting them to our events online. I mean, both online and offline as well. So we definitely, I think, community is like building these relationship with these great meme projects is just something that we're always down to do. And then I think that's the right way as well, right? Like the more intertwined that we are with these go-to communities is, that's kind of how we staying true to ourselves, is that we want to be in the trenches. Like we love memes. And then that's kind of, we want to do what we say.
I want to change topics a little bit. First of all, like, what is the Cabal, or what are the Cabals? And have you guys ever had any like run-ins with the Cabals?
I think Cabal is kind of like a interesting concept, right? It's just, when you see something pump like crazy, when you see them kind of just keep on going higher and higher, you start thinking about, hey, there must be something that's going behind this project.
Right.
Like normies can't, or just kind of like retails can't necessarily drive a coin that up that high.
That quickly too.
Right. It's kind of like that. I would say to a certain degree, like conspiracy in that sense, where it's like, hey, I need to rationalize why something is going up that high, and having a cabal in the back is the easiest way for me to rationalize that concept. To, it's kind of like that, right? So I think to a certain degree, there's kind of like that. I would say that cabal may or may not actually, and there may not be as many cabal as people think there are out there. But do I believe there are cabals out there? Yeah, definitely, because there are definitely. I think as we're in the trenches more and more, been kind of going through like the past year or so, you see that, hey, there are a lot of projects that are trying to do supply controls, like bundle snipes at launch, controlling a lot of the supplies, and then kind of just really like also having a good treasury in the back to kind of push it up when the time comes, working with a lot of KOLs. I think it's just really, at the end of the day, it's just a lot of people. I mean, some of these early movers, they are tapping into their own KOL networks, tapping into their own friends, and then kind of also tapping into the whales, and then eventually forming these. It's kind of like, if you were to say Web 2 is kind of forming these little like startup groups, and then they kind of just want to have their own playbook and then drive a coin up.
Right. And I think honestly, like a lot of like what people call like cabal activity is just, like basically whales holding a lot of supply, right?
Right. Like,
and if you can control like a high percentage supply,
yeah, essentially, I think, the kind of like the game itself, right? The game itself, when it comes to a project, is supply and demand. So, if you have more supply than demand, then the price is just naturally going to go down, right? But if you have a lot of demand and less supply out there floating out of the market, then that's kind of how the price keeps going up. So kind of like the cabal play, or, how people say is just essentially, hey, if I'm a project, if I control a lot of supplies, and then I keep on driving out the demand through marketing, through all these kind of being loud on CT, and then getting people interested, then that's kind of how I can keep on driving the price up. And
right.
then that's kind of how, like, I mean, a lot of the projects, I think ultimately coming back to the roots, I think a better way to put it is that the cabal holding a lot of supply is another way to kind of put a higher probability of a tight community. Is that, okay, if only 10 of us or like 20 of us is holding 80% of the supply, and we all made that decision that we're just not going to sell till it reaches a certain level. It's just, I think it's sort of like a messed up way to to kind of build that foundation.
Right.
That's why some cabal plays, like if you have a quote unquote like a good cabal, then you can run it up. If you have a bad one, then you see some of them like started selling very early, and all of a sudden the project's going up and up, and then let's just say if we decided to sell at 20 mil, and then by the time it reaches 10, you can see someone start selling, and then kind of putting out a lot of sell pressure.
Right.
So I think it's a shortcut way of building a community. Probably not necessarily the best, but hey, I mean, we're in the memes. Whatever they do, it's
right.
like
Game is game.
yeah.
It's kind of an artificial way of like creating a cult, like Morad talks about, where it's like Bitcoin has managed to control 80% of supply or whatever because they have like these hardcore people that are in the ticker Bitcoin, and then a cabal does that, but this then just kind of ends up dumping after a couple of days or something.
Right. Yeah, and then I mean for them it's kind of, I do kind of heard about some of these cabals that are constantly pumping up coins. It's just that okay, if this one doesn't work, kind of like the cost average for them is relatively low, then we'll just do another one until it hits.
So I want to ask you about like rugs and rug prevention and like I remember a couple of days ago, the Let's Bonk platform launched and like Hosiko launched, and people were saying it was a rug, and I looked at it and I was like, this is a rug, and then it goes to $40 million. And it's kind of crazy. It's hard to tell. Like I still get rugged all the time, But you guys do a really good job of like making sure you're listing like legit coins. What are kind of some tips you would give to retail users about like avoiding rugs?
I think a lot of the times like you should kind of have some basic knowledge about kind of like researching on like on chain, kind of seeing how the wallet distributions are, like how the top holders are. Like seeing maybe sometimes there's a lot of tools out there like checking their balance, checking their allocations, seeing if they're only holding this one coin or they're holding multiple coins. You kind of have an idea like when there's a lot of top addresses that only hold this one coin, holds like 1% or holds like the same percentage for the top coins, and they literally have nothing in their wallet, like 0.1
you're getting rugged. You're getting rugged.
That's sort of like not necessarily getting rugged, but that's sort of like an indication that hey, there might be some cabal or whatever you say behind it, right? And then that's the time that you sort of have to make a decision. Is that okay? I think there's some sort of cabal. There's some sort of dev team collectively pushing behind this, and then that's when you think, hey, should I buy in or should I just kind of skip this opportunity? And then that's when you kind of as you monitor the price actions, you can also check and see, hey, you know these top holders, and then you can go into the trader section, like just to see, hey, how many people have TP'd, right? Like take profit from this. And then if you see that a lot of these top holders, or if you're already seeing some like very significant gains that have been made from top traders for people who held a lot, then may or may not every now and then that could be an indicator that hey, the let's just say the devs, the cabals have already started taking profits, and that's when you should be paying a little bit extra attention on the price action. That's when it gets a little bit more risky. Vice versa, when you see a lot of top holders, yes, they may be some newer wallets, but if they're still holding, like they're not moving their wallets, and I mean like majority of these new wallets, right? That's coming from the devs, then that will probably keep the price going up high, and then also another thing is that there are coins out there have very strong communities from day one. It's like a lot of community members, a lot of wallets that are holding these coins, but you see the coin kind of keep on ranging. Every time it tries to break out, it fails, and then it tries multiple times. It's kind of range bounded. and then it would make like a fake breakout, but immediately kind of go back down, then that's also times that, that's what people call, I'm getting farmed, right?
Right.
I mean,
Like
I've been
every
getting
time
farmed.
it ranges, they're controlling price action essentially.
Yeah. And then eventually, as they're done, as they're in hotter narratives, then that's when they're just like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah, and
I'm
you
gonna
see
move
it
on.
sometimes where it's like a cabal or like whoever owns a lot of supply in a coin is like they're still kind of playing with the coin. Like they're like, all right, we'll see where this goes essentially. And then you just see like the red
Like the
rug,
red candle. Yeah,
the rug
yeah.
candle. Where it's
I
not
think-
even like a rug. Like a rug in the past was like they would pull liquidity. Like it's over. Like a rug is a specific thing in DeFi, right? It's like liquidity was not locked. We're pulling liquidity. Now you can't sell your coin. And rug is now like a much broader term.
Yeah. I think now it's just, they kind of want to max extract. I mean, I guess compared to the DeFi, it wasn't as max, right? Because DeFi, you literally just straight up can't sell at all.
Right.
And then for this, it's just like, hey, we're just going to sell all the way down. And then, you can't do anything about it.
Yeah. For me, like the top rug signals, like signs I'm getting farmed are like the first wick out of like pump fund bonding is like a big wick up. You're getting farmed. What's another one? Oh, like price action where it's like choppy up and then red candle down, choppy up, red candle down, like that kind of like manipulated price.
Right.
You're getting rugged. You're getting farmed. What's another one? Oh, like if a coin is doing well on Radium or whatever, like price action is going well, but no one's talking about it on Twitter. Like no real people are talking about it on Twitter. That's a rug.
Right. I mean, there's, yeah, and then also another way, I think some of these kind of, whether you say like these, sometimes it's not necessarily the devs, right? And not necessarily the people building the coin or the original group that's pushing the coin. It was just as they onboard more and more people, whether you say KOLs, whether you say, whales with their own group of people, is that they onboard, you onboard them, they get a hold of enough supply to be moving the charts, and then they're all collectively decide to drive it either up or down. And then also at the same time, when you have this is a time where some of the best communities, like they have built a very strong community, like very hardcore community, but unfortunately the community just doesn't hold enough supplies. And then sometimes these are the best place for, like farms to happen, because they know, hey, this community is strong. There's a strong base. So these communities, they double down on their vision with their money, but also at the same time, every time they see the price go up, they're not selling. And who's the one selling? It's these farmers. Right. They sell, and then communities buys in, and then they buy, and then they also buy in at the low. And then while the community, they kind of put up some candles at the bottom, and then the community's like, oh shit, we're coming back. Let's buy it up again.
Well, dude, low-key, you know what that kind of reminds me of is like the Trump meme coin. Like it's obviously a different thing, but like Trump was like, I got a good community, bro. Like I'm gonna farm my community. You know what I mean?
Dude. He's the top KOL.
He's like,
top KOL.
right, bro?
Right. And then I think a lot of the times is that the meme space is it's good for people to kind of. It has all these kind of stories where people kind of 100x or people kind of reach financial freedom with one click, right? That's why it's just keep on clicking, right? That's kind of like where it came from. But also at the same time, I think it's manipulating people by the fact that, hey, it's kind of, it amplifies the greed within people, right? So it's just like, as you see the chart keep on going up, they kind of create that false vision in your head. It's just that, hey, I could be doing something with it, and then I want to get on. Right. That's how a lot of the you see on social media. It's just like, hey, how do I retire in 1 year? Hey, how do I retire in 30 days? How do I build $100,000 passive income business in however short amount of time? It's just like constantly there are these very few examples out there that are driving people that makes people want to kind of have some shortcuts. And then and then there are some of these meme projects that they know the psychology of money, they know the psychology of people, so that's why they're creating those like huge green candles. And then that's when people top blast. That's when people kind of just FOMO in without due diligence, including me. and then all of a sudden we buy the top, and then the next, like as it keeps on going down, I think nobody likes loss, right? So for me, I was just like, okay, let me just double down. Let me just lower my average, my average all the way down. When in fact, sometimes it's just better to cut the loss.
You just got farmed.
Right. Honestly, I think kind of what Warren Buffett was saying, right? It's just you don't need to hit a lot of home runs. You just need to make a few right decisions, right?
Right.
And then also at the same time, is it Warren Buffett or is it Charlie Munger? It's just really trying to kind of minimize the impact of your mistakes. A lot of times mistakes in our world is that learn to cut loss, right? Learn to cut loss. Is minimize the loss. Like if you're constantly playing on the field, like make sure you get the wins, but also pay more attention. Like don't have a lot of, make sure to minimize the impact of your losses.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue with that is like this fundamental dynamic, and it's like the biggest runners come from like holding something like crazy, right? Like you can't trade your way to 100x, right? Like through the chop. Like you just have to like hold it, right? And like every single coin that goes up 100x has like multiple 70, 80, 90% drawdowns, right? So like that's one side of it. The other side is like 99% of the time if your coin draws down 90%, you just got farmed, Yeah. So it's like on one hand you have to pick the right coin and have conviction in it to make those like massive gains. And on the other side, most of the time a coin draws down and you have conviction, like it'll just continue to draw down. So it's like these two conflicting things.
Yeah, I think that's when kind of going back to our bit a little bit, that's why, our research team, they're doing all these analysis. They want to kind of monitor the kind of throughout the life cycle of these projects. And then I think as people kind of being more and more in the trenches and then kind of keep on playing that game, gain their experience is that's kind of how you still double down on convictions, but people are seeing more signs of, okay, what's actually a conviction play compared to, hey, what's a play that maybe I just trade, right?
Yeah. Do you think that you guys most focus on kind of like those long-term conviction plays and people kind of like trying to like hodl coins, or do you focus more on like the trader?
I think for us, it's we just want to focus on because of the fact that we try to capture these momentums as quickly as possible, right? So ultimately, we want to focus on the potentials of these projects. Sometimes a lot of the times, I think I would be it would be irresponsible for me like to say that, hey, we're only finding conviction coins and we can just tell from the first 3 days or first 2 days or from the first 4 hours of launching that this is a conviction play. Like it's conviction. I think forming a strong community, actually creating a cult coin, it takes a lot of effort.
Right. On
top of that, it takes just as equal amount, if not more, of the luck component too, right? It's just so it's very hard to replicate these cult-like communities. So for us is that we really want to kind of trying to protect our users as much as possible from those very obvious rugs, and then in the same time trying to give a window as early as possible for our users to hop on these momentum plays, and then eventually, I think as traders ourselves, right, like as degens ourselves, it's really ultimately up to us to say, hey, I want to trade this coin or I want to hold this coin. Right. And then ultimately it's for kind of just for end users ourselves is that these are the decisions that I think it would be sort of irresponsible to say that, hey, if a certain exchange listed, I'll just hold it to the ground, or I'll just do whatever, and then eventually if things doesn't work out, then kind of blame it on the exchange or blame it on friend who told them about it. I think that's the thing. And then kind of being adaptive is, especially in the meme space, like in the meme coin space, I think it's very important. It's, you know, in the earlier days, you would see that you can easily hold something for like a couple months, right? Like Giga, like you can hold it from, if you just hold, it goes from, it went from like 1 mil to like 800 mil. Like that's 800x, and 1 mil isn't even the earliest, right? Like they've been ranging in 1 mil for quite some time. So there's a lot of opportunities to hop on board then. And then nowadays, it's more like, hey, you see runners coming from pump fund, 50, 60K, and then it goes up to, you know, 1 mil. And then that's sort of like the 1 mil now is sort of like the, you know, 10 mil back then.
Right.
And then the 10 mil now, or the 5 mil now is like 50 mil back then. So, you know, I think it's important to really kind of know what the state, you know, what the state of the trenches is at.
Right.
And then that's kind of how, as an end user or as a you know, DJ, like how we protect our bags too.
Do you guys, like, as far as your business goes, like, you guys obviously still have like majors available, like there's like perp components, leverage trading, like what is most of your business, memes, or is it people that like want to play memes and also want to have like a centralized exchange experience?
I think, you know, we do definitely focus on memes. Like that's definitely our bread and butter. But also at the same time, you know, I think DJs not only trade memes but also trade perps as well, right?
Right.
So we do have some of the kind of like the highest leverage that you can get out of majors as well. I mean, it's just, I mean, at the end of the day, we just can't stop gambling. So, you know, it's for the majors, it's, you know, for the memes itself, the roller coaster is already there, and then for the majors, it's just, you know, every now and then for me, like I'll be going out with my friends, and then we would just kind of open up a small leverage on like Sol or on like BTC, like put 125x, and then while we're eating, we're just like checking the charts, like looking for some thrills, and then it was, you know, it's definitely pretty fun.
Yeah. You guys have a native meme coin. You want to talk to me about what that is, and if there's like any utility or like what your plans are with that?
Yeah. So we just recently, I believe it's on 420. So we released our first, platform-backed meme coin called Bitch. So I think that, I mean, it's been something that we planned for quite some time. We've always wanted to kind of really show that, hey, we're not only about supporting these memes, like we also want to be like, hey, we want to reward our users. We want to kind of help, kind of like say thanks to the people that's helping us along the way. So we decided to launch this, and then we decided to kind of reward our users. You know, we ran through 3 different stages of airdrops. So, you know, first kind of like saying thanks to the OG people that are using it, like the people that's helping us go along the way. And then there's later phases where, you know, especially with our newly came out DEX product, so we want to kind of incentivize people and also reward people for trading on our DEX. So we've actually allocated a huge portion to our communities. I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, like around like 85% to the communities. And then I definitely heard a lot of people, they were just kind of, what's Ourbit? Like, bitch is kind of cool, but I think it's a rug. I think Ourbit's a rug. And then I remember like the day after we launched, and then it went from like, I think like 15 mil to like 45 mil. And then all of a sudden I'm seeing these posts. It's just like, sorry for doubting Ourbit, sorry for doubting bitch. And then I've been kind of telling my friends, kind of like just telling people around me, it's just like, hey, you know, I'm not saying, you know, you should ape hard, but I think it's worth a small bag. Like if you have some extra money on the side, you know, it's a good product. I mean, for me, I just kind of think about it like this way. It's just, you know, I know what we're trying to do. I know we're not here for a quick buck. Like none of our founders, none of our core teams, like they're in here for like a measly, you know, quick buck or something. So this is how I see it, is that this is the first meme that came out of our platform. This is backed by our platform. We say we go hard on memes. So how is it gonna run? Like that's just for me, right?
Right.
That's just for me. And then also, kind of we're gonna keep on building Bitch, and then we're going to keep on building. I think the end goal is to just keep on driving more rewards, driving more benefits to our users. I think just from a company's growth perspective, is that the more users we have, the more core users, the more active users we have that trade on our platform, then the more likely that we're going to become the exchange, right? Like become the, not saying Binance, but hey, we want to shoot for the best.
Right.
So ultimately, is a little bit less on the short-term vision, more on the long-term vision, driving benefits to our users. So this way, we can attract more people onto our platform, and then that's kind of how we keep that positive, kind of keep that flywheel going.
To someone who kind of like is not that into memes, or feels like memes have ruined the space, or has never just checked it out, what would you say for them to like check out the meme space and to check out like Ourbit?
I think in terms of memes, right? I think there's sometimes, if you think too rationally, if you're trying to associate a value, like a monetary value behind these contents, it could be a little bit hard, right? But also at the same time, seeing that content creators were able to monetize off of their contents. So this, I would say, this is kind of like the new model of the economy, attention economy, right? So don't think too much about it in the sense, but just think about, hey, this may be a bad example, but when you're going to watch a movie, you go watch a movie, and then you're paying the ticket, you're paying a certain price to watch it, to get that whole experience, right? So this is more so or less the same. You're buying into a content, you're buying into a community where people, just go crazy over the content, creating all these stuff. So think about it more like attention economy. And then in terms of kind of Ourbit, is that we have definitely check out our Twitter. It's Ourbit, and then also just see that. Just kind of see some of the past performance that we have on the coins that we have listed. I think on average, if you were to buy in on every single project that we have listed, then you would be up, I think, probably like 120% or something.
Oh, damn.
I mean, I think honestly, that's a lot. Because most people, like even me, it's, we're constantly aping shitters, and honestly, you probably lose more money than we actually make, right? So the fact that you were able to just ape into a project that's getting launched on Ourbit, and then if you have that consistency, then you will outperform the majority of the market. So that's something that I would say. If that's a good reason to get on Ourbit.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks so much for being here. We'll wrap it up there. Really appreciate your time. The state of the trenches. A little update on the state of the Memecoin trenches. So thanks so much for being here, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.